Hi guys, it's Sarah from Book Nerds and Fangirls, and today I thought I would talk about my favorite moments from Avengers Endgame. Now, I saw a lot of reviews for Avengers Endgame circling around the web right now, and I just decided that instead of doing a review that people have seen over and over and over again, I decided I would personally talk about my favorite parts of the Avengers Endgame movie. That being said, this is a huge warning for spoilers. If you've not seen Avengers Endgame and you clicked on this video for whatever reason, I would just strongly urge you to click off this video right now. Go see Avengers Endgame. It's been 10 years in the making. You don't want someone like me spoiling it for you. Because I do have very heavy spoilers that I will be discussing in this. So if you have not seen Avengers Endgame, what are you doing? Go watch it. It's awesome. Awesome. And this is coming from a person who doesn't fully invest her time in the MCU. I've actually skipped a few MCU movies, but I've seen enough of the MCU movies to know what's going on in Endgame and Infinity War. So if you are just just clicking on this video just to click on it and see what happens, okay, that's fine too. But I strongly urge you to go watch the movie because it's an end of an era, and even I could find the appreciation in it not being as big as a Marvel fan as, let's say, my husband or even my best friends. For that matter, I still thoroughly enjoy this movie, and I really hope you will too when you go watch it. So I'm gonna give you a couple seconds to click off this video, and then for the rest of you who have seen Avengers Endgame and would love to know the plot points that I loved, just stay tuned and keep watching. Okay, so I really hope that the people who haven't seen the movie have clicked off at this point, because I'm gonna be getting into my favorite parts of the movie now. First plot point that I thought I would talk about is the time jump that happened. We time jump the movie 5 years later. I thought this was a good choice, seeing as how within the first, I think it was the first 20 minutes of this movie, not even that, I think it was the first 10 actually, because they get this small team together, they go find Thanos in the garden, and then Thor ends up killing Thanos in the first 10 to 20 minutes of the movie. So then we're sitting here wondering, okay, so we found Thanos, we realized that he destroyed the Infinity Stones by this point, because he made a second wish for the stones to be destroyed, so no one else could undo what he did. And then Thor gets angry and chops off Thanos' head. And I'm like, okay, so what are we gonna be doing for the next 3 hours? And I totally predicted what the theme is that they were going for. I totally predicted the time travel element. It's how, because Doctor Strange saying something in Infinity War about there's only one reality in which we win this. I figured out that time travel had to come into play at some point, even when people just looked at me like I was weird, no, they would never do that, and they ended up doing that, so I'm glad I predicted one thing for Endgame. But I like how we fast forward 5 years later. I like seeing how everyone is so much different from when they first started, especially Thor, because Thor got he built a new Asgard. It's called New Asgard, and apparently he felt so guilty for the fact that he didn't go for Thanos' head the first time. He thinks they would have won if he had just chopped off Thanos' head. Went for the head, but he didn't go for the head, so he, like, drowns his guilt in booze and stuff, and he gets fat. So I enjoyed that. But, in the beginning part of the movie, actually, the opening scene, this is actually supposed to act as a segue into my next thing that I loved about this movie. So in the beginning of the movie, we see Hawkeye training his daughter how to use a bow and arrow. And of course Thanos has, like, snapped his fingers at this point. Everyone is disintegrating into dust, and then we just see like his daughter just, like, disappear into dust, but he turns around for a moment, and then everyone in his family gets dusted, like, they're all gone. So my next plot point, the one thing I enjoyed about Avengers Endgame is Hawkeye goes dark. I believe someone mentioned this is kind of like a Ronin thing, like how Hawkeye becomes Ronin, and I'm not really into the MCU comic books. I have never actually even read one before, but so I don't know who. I know that Hawkeye is Ronin, but I don't know how he becomes Ronin. I don't know. So Hawkeye goes bad. He ends up having a kill list. He ends up killing people, and it actually makes me think that Hawkeye is a little bit more badass. Because, like, you know, he's got nothing left to lose at this point, and he feels so angry that people like this got to survive, but his family didn't, and it wasn't fair. So he just decided that he was gonna kill people that weren't deserving, and, you know, that was, that was a pretty cool plot point. The other part I like, this is a little more lighter of a part was, like, Hulk learning how to merge Bruce Wayne and the Hulk together to make Professor Hulk. And then they're in, I think it's a diner or something, and then there's, like, 3 kids who want the Hulk's, like, Professor Hulk's autograph, but they don't, and the Hulk is signing it, and then Ant-Man's over here, like, hey, I'm Ant-Man, do you want my autograph? And then, like, the kids don't even know who Ant-Man is, which I found hilarious, because I feel like Ant-Man is one of those movies where you could, like, give or take it. I don't think it's as much of an enjoyable movie as any other MCU film, so I think that's a little joke for the fans, and I really enjoyed it. That was funny. So yeah, and the next thing I liked was Captain America fighting Captain America. Of course, we're traveling back in time to get the Infinity Stones, and of course, not Infinity Stones, and of course I'm not going to mention everything about them time traveling because it's just personally my favorite parts of what they did, but I really liked when Captain America was fighting Captain America, because our Captain America had possession of one of the stones. I can't remember what stone he had possession of at that point, but then he runs into his old self and they start fighting, and I just thought it was such a cool and badass scene, and I like how he mentions that, hey, Bucky is alive, to punch himself out and take the stone back. That was a pretty good one. The next one I loved was Tony Stark talking to Howard Stark about fatherhood, because they go back in the past in the past, Tony has to get the Tesseract because their first attempt to get the Tesseract didn't really go well. So they had to time travel back to another point. But while he is trying to get the Tesseract, he runs into his father, Howard Stark, and then they have a conversation, and Howard Stark just found out that his wife, aka Tony Stark's mother, is pregnant at this point. So, of course, you know, Tony has a daughter now, which I'm glad that Tony had a kid, because it was like a small moment from Avengers Infinity War when him and Piper were talking about having kids, and I believe one of the names that was mentioned was their daughter's name, Morgan. So they're talking about fatherhood, and of course Howard Stark doesn't know who Tony is. And I also believe the driver in this part is Stan Lee, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is his final cameo, and it makes me really sad. But to see Tony interact with his father and talking about his own father about fatherhood, a conversation that he can't have with his father because his father is dead at this point really got to me, and I really enjoyed it a lot. So the next part I would like to talk about is Black Widow sacrificing herself for Hawkeye. Of course, you know, Hawkeye and Black Widow go to retrieve the Soul Stone, and as a lot of us know, the Soul Stone, no one can get granted the possession of the Soul Stone unless a sacrifice is made, and they have to sacrifice what they love the most. So Black Widow and Hawkeye duke it out to see who goes, and it's to the nail fight, and then Hawkeye jumps over, and then Natasha, I think, was it Natasha, Hawkeye who jumps over? It was one of them that jumped over, and then they both end up going over because they're stubborn. I loved this scene because it shows that they're willing to die for each other because their friendship is so valuable to each other. And I really like that sometimes the thing that you love the most is your best friend. That was a great scene. And of course, you know, Black Widow ends up dying in this scene, and it makes me sad. And a lot of people have an issue with Black Widow's death because no one ever seems to really acknowledge it through the movie. But I feel like this death scene is actually done justice because because Black Widow's death was in the midst of wartime, and during that time, death isn't really acknowledged because no one really has time to acknowledge death while fighting a war. So I think her death scene is more realistic than anything. But we'll talk about more death scenes later, of course. The next scene I would really like to talk about is Thor choosing to see his mother over Jane. So, of course, Thor and Rocket go back to Asgard because of one of the other stones. I'm really bad at knowing what the stones are. I only know the Soul Stone because of Infinity War and what happened to achieve this stone. The Soul Stone, then the Power Stone. I know the Power Stone too. And of course the Time Stone. But the other two, I totally forgot what they do. And I know the Tesseract was one of the stones. But, Like, I like how Thor decides that whenever he's in Asgard, or the plan is to retrieve the stone from Jane. Rocket wants Thor to distract Jane while he gets the stone. But of course Thor sees his mother, and him and Jane are over in the present day. And even though he misses her, he acknowledges that things didn't work out for a reason. And stuff. So he leaves Rocket to go see his mother. And him and his mother have a conversation, and she eases his mind about what he did in Infinity War, and I felt like it was such a sweet scene, and I really loved his interaction with his mother again. Especially whenever, like, her final words and Thor, please eat a salad because he's gained so much weight. I really just loved the mother-son connection between those two. So, of course, next I have to talk about the battle, because most of the scenes that I love the most are in the midst of the battle scene. I feel like this was the epic part of Endgame. Everything else was okay. I liked some of the parts, but not all the parts. So let's get into what I loved about the battle. First up being Thanos' entrance. So whenever Nebula and I'm so bad at names. I think it was War Machine. Yeah, War Machine. Whenever War Machine and Nebula were sent to go retrieve the Power Stone, the other Nebula, there's the past Nebula's memories were infiltrated by the present day Nebula's memories, giving Thanos a heads up on what the plan was and what exactly they were doing. So of course they end up kidnapping the present tense Nebula and swapping her out for the past one. Of course, Nebula in the past will do anything to please her father, because she's not aware. She doesn't really care of what her father is doing. She just wants to do everything in order to please him at this point, which really shows me just how far Nebula has come as a character. If anything, she's like one of my best character developments for this movie. So now that we got through that confusion, so the past Nebula ends up getting traveled to the new universe, and of course she's with all the other Avengers. Like Hulk uses the Infinity Stones to snap everyone back in existence. We see proof of this whenever Hawkeye's wife, who disappeared in the beginning of the movie, we see evidence that everyone's back when she calls him. So of course everyone's back, but of course we still got I think it was 30 to 45 minutes at this point, so we knew something had happened. So past Nebula sets up the time machine and opens up a portal to present day, so Thanos' ship could enter through the time portal, and I believe it was Ant-Man who was staring at the window, I believe so. Believe so. And then, like, you know, of course, Thanos attacks the Avengers headquarters and it blows up. Like, that was like a hell of an entrance, and I don't even know how people ended up surviving that. Don't know why we didn't at least get one death scene there, because that would have been more realistic than all of them just like surviving. So the next part of the battle that I would like to talk about is Captain America picking up Thor's hammer. Now, I would like to preference this by saying that I did get spoiled for this part before I went to go watch Endgame. I was actually scrolling through YouTube as I do in the beginning of the mornings to see what's going on, and I ran across a spoiler to where it says Captain America picks up Thor's hammer, and of course I was just like, wow, I just got a minor spoiler for Endgame. I thought it was a minor spoiler for Endgame. I don't know if I'm not like the hugest MCU fan, so comment down below if that would piss you off, but I feel like any spoiler is just like a bad spoiler, and people have been waiting like 10 years to see how this ends, so please don't. If you have clips from the movie, please do not post them until like at least 2 weeks. 2 weeks, because not everyone is going to be fortunate enough to see this movie within the first week that it begins. The only reason why I watched this movie on the opening weekend was because I was gonna watch it next Saturday, but my husband had to end up working on that Saturday, so we just barely managed to go this Saturday. There's only like 2 seats left, and we got them. But I'm really glad that we ended up going on Saturday, or else I would have been spoiled for the major death in Infinity War. In Endgame, and I would have been super pissed. Let me tell you. But I love this scene because, you know, Mjolnir has to decide that you're worthy to pick her up, and of course, Captain America, like, you get a little of him budging it in, I think it was Civil War? Or was it the first Avengers? I can't remember what point it was, but we know Captain America has some strength in order to pick up Thor's hammer, and I just love how he ends up picking up Thor's hammer because he is worthy at this point, and I really loved that so much. So, the next scene, I feel like this is almost everyone's favorite scene in this one. One, because, you know, Captain America looks like he's about to get defeated by Thanos. Now, it seems like the odds are in Thanos' favor. Thanos is, like, assembling his huge army at this point, and we only have just a few Avengers, and then you see the time portals opening it up, and then, you know, the first people you see are Black Panther and Shuri, and God, her name escapes me right now. Now I know a lot of people will get pissed off at me for not knowing one of the Black Panther characters at the moment, but the 3 of them step through the time portal, and then everyone else starts stepping through the time portal, and all the Avengers, I wouldn't even say all the Avengers, all the MCU characters, everyone that we lost, and everyone that survived the time portal erasement, all of them come through the time portals, and then we have our huge MCU universe besides one person, and I'll get to that one person in a minute, and then, you know, it was just like a holy shit moment. Because I was all like, wait a minute, everyone is back. How are they gonna get there? And of course, they teleported there thanks to Doctor Strange and everyone else. I just, like, I loved that so much. So much. It was so awesome, especially whenever Captain America, I think it was Captain America who yelled this. It might have been Thor. And especially when someone yells, Avengers assemble. Assemble, and they all go charging down the army. That is just like such a great moment. Great moment. But then we get another beautiful entrance. Of course, we're in the midst of the battle. Like Thanos' ships are getting ready to shoot cannons at people. Or raise or something. I'm not very good at Marvel Universe. Can you tell? Tell they're just shooting at people, and then they send something very powerful going through the sky. I actually heard people in my audience go, "What is it?" But I'm just all over here like, I know who it is. Is because I didn't see her during the battle at any point. And so, like, it seems like something is going through the atmosphere in a high radius. I can't remember the exact line, but it ends up being Captain Marvel. I have to admit that her entrance was like so amazing. Amazing. And like, yeah, Captain Marvel's here, and her entrance just like high notch. I just loved her. Loved her so much. Like, I think Captain Marvel just made her parts of this movie special because, her movie was kind of meh. I enjoyed it. It was okay. Okay, it was a fun time, but it wasn't, a movie that I resonated with, and I feel like Captain Marvel in this movie just was so amazing. They did so much of her character, and I'm so glad that a lot of people backed up Captain Marvel because of this movie. It'd be like, see, she can do good with the material she's given if she has good direction. And I just loved it. So the next part I would like to talk about is Star-Lord seeing the other Gamora for the first time. So of course Star-Lord doesn't know what's going on. He got dusted at the end of the last movie. So he thinks that they found, of course probably thinks that they found some way to bring her back, or she wasn't dead to begin with. And of course him going like, Gamora, I thought I lost you, and he ends up like hugging her and like caressing her and being like, oh my god, I'm so glad you're okay. And of course this is Gamora from the past. And it's like more, I wouldn't say badass Gamora, because Gamora is badass more or less, but she doesn't know Star-Lord from where she came from. Nebula has mentioned him, but of course the feelings aren't there for her. So of course she like grabs him and then just keeps on kneeing him in the balls, going like, don't touch me. And then just like throws him to the ground, and then she looks at Nebula and goes, this one? Seriously? And I love how Nebula is all like, oh, it was either between him or a tree, and I'm just like, that line was great. I just loved that scene so much. much. I don't know what they're gonna do with Gamora, this other Gamora in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, even, or if, you know, they're even gonna use her, but I'm glad that they're setting up a little bit of Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Now, the next part I want to talk about is one of my favorite parts ever in Endgame. And that is Scarlet Witch versus Thanos. This scene was amazingly done. So, of course, we have Scarlet Witch, we have Thanos, but this is Thanos from another point in time. He doesn't know who Scarlet Witch is. He doesn't know her power. He doesn't know that he is the one that killed Vision. But of course, Scarlet Witch just looks at Thanos, and she goes, you took everything from me? And Thanos just looks at her and goes, I don't even know who you are. And instead of crying or throwing a fit, going like, what are you talking about? You did this, and this. She just awesomely says, you will, and shows off her full range of her power, and throws it at Thanos, and just like uses it on him, and I just thought this was a great and well executed scene because I feel like Scarlet Witch finally gets her vengeance on Thanos for taking Vision away from her, and it was just like, it was so amazing. I just loved it so much. I really want more content with Scarlet Witch. I feel like she's one of my favorite characters, and I rarely get to see her at all. I might even get Disney streaming services so I could watch her show called WandaVision. I need more Scarlet Witch in my life. Now, I know the next part will probably have some people on this video rolling their eyes. Like, you loved that part, really? But I feel like it goes to my inner child, honestly. And I wish I had, like, this powerful moment of an ensemble female team whenever I was a little girl growing up. And I'm glad that girls nowadays have all these amazing women to look up to. It just shows how far we really come as a society, honestly. But of course, everyone now knows what I'm talking about. I call this plot point #girl power because it's just so amazing. So of course, we got the gauntlet. We have to get rid of the stones somehow. Captain Marvel is gonna go to Scott's minivan to take the gauntlet out of play and other stuff, and just return all the stones. And Spider-Man's word for going, like, that's a lot of people you have to fight against. Are you sure that you can do it alone? And someone says, she's not alone, and it just, like, pans out to all the female Avengers rallying up to Captain Marvel in order to defend her, and it's just, like, it was such a strong moment of women empowerment and women supporting other women, and I loved it so much. It was everything I ever wanted in a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, and it was so great. It was just like, it sent chills up my spine, and I just loved it so much. so much. And then, of course, you know, Thanos infiltrates Captain Marvel before she could get to the minivan, and of course Captain Marvel is just as strong, if not stronger, than Thanos. So it's not working. So of course he loses his temper and he headbutts Captain Marvel. And I love the look she gives him, like, seriously, dude, did you think that would work? And he just, like, he takes a power stone from off the gauntlet and, like, throws it at her, but, like, I just thought that was, like, such a cool mini part of the movie. I just, like, of course I'm not gonna mention every part of the battle, so if I miss anything from the battle, I'm sorry. It was just, like, chock full of great content. So the next one that I have here is, of course, Thanos versus Tony. There's a few Tony / Iron Man. Iron Man, this is a really great scene, and it leads to an even more devastating scene for a lot of MCU fans. So like, the battle is happening. Tony is looking at Doctor Strange, and a lot of people didn't get why Tony's looking at Doctor Strange and the little flick of a finger. It was Doctor Strange telling Tony that this was the one opportunity, the one chance they had at winning. So Tony and Thanos are fighting, and Thanos gets a hold of the Infinity Gauntlet. He's about to use the stones again. Again, him and Tony are struggling with the stones. And Thanos just looks at Tony. And is about to snap his fingers and goes, "I am inevitable." And he snaps his fingers and nothing happens. He turns back, looks at the gauntlet to see that the Infinity Stones aren't in it anymore, and then Tony shows him his suit, and the Infinity Gauntlets are right there, and before Tony snaps his fingers, he goes, "And I am Iron Man," and he snaps his fingers, and I loved that scene so much. I cried at what it led. Well, I didn't actually cry. I got emotional, but I'm not really a crier when it comes to movies. I actually felt really proud of myself that I didn't cry during this movie, even though I get emotional talking about it. If I'm not talking about it, I won't cry about it, but like, that was such a powerful moment. And then you see all of Thanos' team getting dusted out of the battlefield, and of course Thanos is still standing, and for a split beat you think that Tony didn't wish away Thanos. So Thanos is sitting, he's exhaling, thinking about all what he did wrong to get defeated, and then he just exhales, and he gets dusted at the moment, and I, like, sent a small cheer out, because of course we defeated Thanos. But this leads to, of course, probably the saddest death scene in Endgame. I keep on wanting to say Infinity War, but it's not Infinity War, it's Endgame. And that is the death of Tony Stark. My husband was over here bawling like a baby at this death, and I was over here getting super emotional and almost tearing up on this death. So of course Tony can sustain the power of the stones, because of course he's only human, and if it hurts Thanos and the Hulk, of course it's gonna kill him, or almost nearly killing him. And of course, you know, Spider-Man or Peter, whichever one you want to refer him as, he goes, "We won, Mr. Stark, we won." He kept on repeating it because, you know, of course he's in denial. Of course he's gonna think that his mentor is gonna be okay, and of course he's not, because he's gonna die. So, you know, they swipe Spider-Man to the side, and of course he has his last moments with his wife, and I can't remember exactly what she says to him, so forgive me for that, but whenever it's like, "We're okay now, you could let go now, we're safe," and Tony's heart monitor just turns off, meaning that he's dead, and I'm just like, it was such a sad scene, and, you know, it's very emotionally heavy, because of course the guy who started the MCU in the first place is now dead, and it's such a devastating scene, and I'm just like so sad about it. I will probably not get over this death for a while. Well, so last but not least, we're gonna talk about Tony's funeral. I feel like it's very well done. I love the shot at the we're gonna talk about several plot points of his funeral. I love how they got a telegram of him. Not telegram. It was like a. You see, I am so tired. I can't function. They have a visual of him talking to his family about if this goes horribly wrong and stuff, and he's talking to his daughter in it, and, you know, it was just such a sweet scene, and the whole "I love you" 3000, of course, you know, everyone gathering for his death, and the whole his heart monitor floating in the water, and it's saying proof that Tony Stark does have a heart. And it was just so great, and I loved it, and I loved when they panned out on everyone at his funeral, and it was just like, it was such a sweet scene. And last but not least, we gotta talk about the ending scene, because there is no end credit scene at all, because it's the end of the cinematic universe, not the end of Marvel in general, because we do have other Marvel movies coming. I'm pretty sure they're setting up for another cinematic universe, quite potentially, if not another huge story point. But because it's Marvel, what else would they do? Dude, they're just like wrapping up a huge part of the story arc, and, you know, we have to. One of the plot points in this is that we have to put the stones back in place where we found them. But this time, Captain America decides that he's gonna not do a huge thing in his plot point, and he's gonna live out the life that he wanted with Peggy before he comes back. So, of course, they stick him in a time travel machine, and, you know, they send him in for 5 seconds. And he doesn't come back. It doesn't look like he comes back, but then we see an old man on a bench. on a bench and goes, I decide to take back my life and live the life I wanted to. And of course, you know, this means that Captain America is gonna die at some point because he's older now. And then War Machine's all like, are you gonna tell me what happened? And he's all like, I think I'd rather keep it to myself. So he hands the shield over to War Machine, and I'm not sure where that's gonna go. Honestly, we had to get Disney streaming service to find out, because there's gonna be so many different plots happening on that streaming service. The last shot is of Steve dancing with Peggy, and it's just such a sweet scene because he finally gets to be with the love of his life that he ended up missing out on because he was frozen in a time capsule for so long. And I just, like, I loved it so much. And there you guys have it. That was the end of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is probably not the end of me talking about it, but I feel so privileged to get the honor of seeing this on opening weekend. I know a lot of people don't get this opportunity, and I'm so grateful for it. But I am wondering how people's hearts are doing this weekend, because I know a lot of people watched Endgame, but they also saw the Battle of Winterfell tonight on Game of Thrones. So I don't know how their hearts could handle it, because my hearts really can't take this. I'm not caught up on Game of Thrones, so I don't know what's happening, but, you know, I'm wondering how they're doing right now. So what did you guys think of what did you guys think of Endgame? Did you love it as much as Infinity War? Which part do you think was a superior story? Did you like the Infinity War better or Endgame? Did I leave out any parts that you thought were amazing and awesome, and you're going like, Sarah, why didn't you mention this part of the movie? Was obviously awesome. Why did you not mention it? Like I said, I'm gonna miss a lot of parts because there is a lot of story. This is a 3-hour movie, so I can't include all the parts in here, or else this would be a 3-hour video. If anything, this is pushing like an hour video, and that's excessive. But I feel like there's so much to talk about. But with that, I'm gonna end this video here. I think I still have another video to film that I'm gonna pre-record. It's just gonna be a small video, so I have like content for you guys this week. But that was my review, mini review for my favorite parts of Avengers Endgame. Comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. And I will see all you fellow book nerds and fangirls in my next video. Bye!